Hotline League is brought to you by Omen by HP.
Cool. Well, hey, we've got our next caller, which is Danksor on the show right now. Danksor, where are you calling from?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida. I'm going to turn you up a little bit. What do you want to talk about on the show today?
So I want to ask, if I pronounce it correctly, Blastoise.
I think Nathan works. You can call him Nathan.
Yeah, you can call me Nathan, buddy. I got you.
Okay, I want to ask you if you've ever researched like defeatist mentality and like NA solo queue. So like, for example, like phrases such as like open mid, surrender 15, open FF 15, and like seeing at like what point in the match like people typically say that, and like how I wanted to tie it back also like the pros and like the environment and stuff is that like I feel like this came from like the South Korean boot camps originally, where in South Korea they pay per hour for the computer use, and so they want to get as much games as possible. And when the pros are shooting in, seeing games ending at like 15 minutes, or even like 10 minutes, I feel like that caused like everyone else to also start adapting that same mentality. And so I was just kind of curious, this is something that your department's ever like looked at before?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think it'd be really hard to tie it back to pros in South Korea. Like, I think that's like a totally like viable theory. I just think it'd be really hard to prove out that theory. One of the things we've looked into is like, a lot of times when people have talked about things like player behavior in our game or all sorts of other negative things that occur in our game, a lot of it comes down to these games where, and this is actually one of our focuses recently, is these games that we'll call trapped games. And this gets a little spicy and a little interesting because it's like, what happens when there's a game where you, by all of our metrics, and we can sort of tell us by all of our metrics, you have a really high percentage of losing. Is it worthwhile to play those games out just because it is, hashtag winnable? Like, let's say in these games you had a 1 in 20 chance of winning. Is winning the one time worth all of the 19 times of defeat? And that's like a really like hard research question to answer, because some of our biggest highs in league come from these amazing comebacks, right? And I think that's what kind of bothers some people is like, there's two things, right? It's like, on the one hand, you want to have those amazing comeback games, but on the other hand, like, I have seen those games, and I think we've all been in them, where the game is kind of over. And sure, you could say it's a defeatist mentality. Some people say it's defeatist. Others, and I've even said this in my games before, people are like, wow, I can't believe this Riot player is like so defeatist. And I'm like, or I'm a realist, right? Like, we're probably going to lose this game. I actually think that's a really tricky balance. And while I don't have an answer, like necessarily an answer of like, oh, where did it come from? I'll say that my answer now is we want to try and solve that better. We want it so that you can still have those great comeback games, the games that are, someone pops off, a team fight turns around, the other team throws a little bit, you get the hashtag winnable in there, there's a little bit of hope. But we also want to get you like out of those games where you're like, this shit's over. Because those do occur. And I think one of the most frustrating things, and where we actually, I think, can see a lot of toxicity and like people getting really frustrated, are where you're stuck in those games. And the game is probably over, but you're in it for another 10, 15 minutes. And that can feel really bad.
So to continue the conversation then, you said Riot wants to, somehow solve this. What do you think it is? Because, one thing I'm thinking about is that I play in around like master tier / U1 level. And there are some people who just like, just troll whenever they see a specific person. They just int whenever they see a specific person. Like there's a guy named like D1 Police. And if he doesn't like you, he's going to throw the game, and just like, there's always there. And so whenever you're stuck in like one of those matches where like he happens to like not like one of your teammates, you're stuck there for about 10, 15 minutes, and you're just like, well, shit, there's nothing I can do about this. And, it just like freaking sucks. And, I'm just kind of curious as to like, if you think that it's gonna, just like, is it combating like inters and AFKers? Is it, is it like the entire community just being like, okay, like stop with the, stop with like this like the realist or diffuse mentality, you know what I mean? Like try shifting it. Like what can Riot do to like try shifting that? I know it's kind of like on the spot question, but just kind of curious to see your thoughts.
No, that's a really good question. I think it's a really good question. I don't really have like that's kind of hard for me to answer on the spot of how do we get people to like change their entire mental model, because that'd be basically like, how do we change people to be like, yeah, I'm never going to give up, I'm going to fight this out till the end. And like, yeah, I wish I could do that and make like, honestly, I wish everyone would just try their hardest in League. I think a more than like tactical answer, instead of just being like, oh, I can't answer that, would be like, I want us to focus on because I think this is one where a lot of people have separated maybe like player behavior stuff from gameplay stuff. I actually think they're really linked, which is why I'll talk on it, which is I'd like to see us really try to tackle some of those behavior issues in game and some of the motivational issues in game. I've spoken about this vocally before, like even on my stream or like elsewhere. I'll say this. The thing that I think most people who are playing ranked and who are playing competitive, especially you know, where you're playing in Masters here, people don't like, obviously don't like the inters, they don't like the AFK, but they also don't like what I would call like soft inting, which are these people who just kind of give up, who are like, you know, kind of just lackadaisical about their play. They really don't like that. So I'd like us to work on some system to better deal with that. And at the same time, I'm personally of the opinion that we, you know, should, when we look at like things like chat restrictions and all that stuff, I'd like to see us, if someone's typing and flaming other people in games, instead of banning that person, just chat restrict them. Don't let them type, and let's save the gameplay punishments for those people who, you know, for this guy, D1 police guy, right? Like, dude, like, yeah, if you're doing that shit, like, that's the kind of shit where like, I don't want you playing the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I felt like this whole idea from, you know, Riot, like I think it originally came from Riot Light, who's like a huge like supporter of this. But it was just like, we need to fix toxicity. Toxicity is like the number one thing to fix. And like here I'm in solo queue, and like usually the most toxic people typically care the most about the game. And it's like the ones that are most frustrating is the, you know, the people who just, you know, just want to throw the game AFK. They don't like, I've even had people where like I just asked them to group, and they're like, you say one more word to me, I'm AFK. And, you know, I just say, hey, let's group a bear, and AFK. It's just like, what the heck am I supposed to do about this nonsense? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's just really, really frustrating. It's cool to hear that, like, you guys are, like, you know, realizing this and, like, want to move more towards, like, you know, not the chat restriction, but, like, the game, like, people, how they behave, like, in games, the characters, like, intention feeding and stuff.
Well, to be clear, I think it's you know, if you're saying like awful shit in chat, I think something should be done. I just don't know if that thing of like we should ban you from the game.
Yeah.
I think the people who I like, and again, this is me not speaking for Riot, because this is technically not
because
my
people
team.
on Twitch chat are saying, if he's saying this, why is it like the game like this right now?
Chat, don't you know, say, oh, like Riot promote this guy. No. This is not my team. This is me actually personally speaking as a player. So there's other issues around this, but in general, the thing I think Riot would agree with you guys on, and with the chat on in general, is that we think that we should do a better job dealing with AFKs, with inters, and with the soft inters as well. Full stop. That's what we definitely want to do a better job dealing with. And we really should. And on the other hand, there's stuff that falls to my team, to the gameplay team, which is like, we need to make sure that the game of League of Legends is not, you know, is not causing this peak toxicity, this peak frustration, right? Like, some people have always said and again, my personal opinion, I don't think there are like toxic players and non-toxic players. I think everyone has a little bit of spice in them. You just got to get it out somehow. And in a world where you're playing this game that you're really passionate about, that you're really competitive about, and the game is dragging on, and you're stuck in a game that you know you're going to lose, and you know tensions are getting, you know, it's getting heated, that's where I think that's a situation where more people are likely to have that spicy toxicity come out, and that's something for the gameplay team to work on too.
So
Okay.
before we move on, because I think first off I got to grab an ad, but then also we're going to move on to the next couple of callers. What if here's this? I've got this brilliant system for you, Nathan. Okay, so you say that you can kind of tell when a game has like a 1 in 20 chance of winning, right? So like it's a 5% chance of a win. Pop up comes up. Somebody's like super frustrated. They can like disconnect from the game, move on with their life. Then there's a queue of people that you queue up for. You get a shit ton of IP or blue essence and whatever for winning this. You get a chest or whatever crazy consumables you guys are doing these days. And you go in there, you life save. You take over their role. You know, like you're an Nasus. You've gone just the complete wrong item path, but you have to win in that spot.
Travis, what are you doing tomorrow? Can I bring you on campus?
There we go. Yes. See,
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay, good. I'll meet with the
I love
people.
it.
We'll make it happen. Thank you so much, Dank, sir, for the call.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, dude, those are great questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.